evening. Welcome to the Big Story. I'm Regina Lane.
I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Sean Yao.
Tonight's big stories. As promised, returning U.S. President Donald Trump makes sweeping executive actions just a few hours into his second term, virtually dismantling much of his predecessor's policies and legacy.
President Marcos considers extending the term of PNP Chief General Romel Marbil until after the midterm elections. We speak with the general live later on in the program.
And transport groups seek to increase the minimum fare in traditional jeepneys, and the LTFRB says it will study the proposal carefully.
And so it begins, the second term of Donald J. Trump. On his first day, he made good on his campaign promise, signing a slew of executive orders meant to overhaul the federal government.
And among the first to go were several policies implemented by his predecessor, Joe Biden, including ones on gender equity. He also pulled out the U.S. from the World Health Organization.
And of course, immigration was high up on Trump's agenda. He sought to declare a national border emergency and put an end to birthright citizenship. Here's Julie Baiza with the rundown.
Donald Trump completed his stunning political comeback as he was sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. As promised, on his first official day in office, Trump signed dozens of executive orders designed to reshape government policy.
The golden age of America begins right now. I will very simply put America first.
First to go were several former President Joe Biden's policies and actions. As promised in his campaign, Trump issued pardons for about 1,500 people convicted or criminally charged for the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Congress ultimately convened to declare Biden's victory over Trump in the 2020 elections, followed by a slew of cases against Trump. But the returning president is in charge now. Trump also ordered an end to federal cases against political opponents of the Biden administration.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Full pardon or commutation?
Full pardon.
Trump also executed orders reminiscent of his first term in office, including the withdrawal of the U.S. from the World Health Organization again.
So we paid $500 million to World Health when I was here, and I terminated it. China, with 1.4 billion people, we have 350 to pay. They were paying 39 million, we were paying 500 million. It seemed a little unfair to me.
Trump also signed documents that will formally pull out his country from the Paris climate agreements. As if that wasn't enough, he likewise declared an energy emergency to pursue fossil fuel use and announced that he will end the Biden administration's electric vehicle mandate. That's just for starters. Right after his inauguration, Trump terminated diversity, equity, and inclusion programs within the federal government. He also rolled back protections for transgender people. One of his executive orders had the government only recognize two genders, male and female.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
In his inaugural speech, Trump repeated his intention to rename the Gulf of Mexico, a fishing and oil-rich area, to the Gulf of America. Though it's not clear if Trump can actually do that, according to his 2016 opponent Hillary Clinton.
Changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
And of course, immigration. Among Trump's most sweeping orders today was the declaration of a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border. That means he can send American soldiers and other Pentagon resources to help support immigration agents on border crossings. He also ended the use of an app that allowed hundreds and thousands of migrants to enter the U.S. legally by scheduling an appointment online. Finally, Trump also signed an order to end birthright citizenship, whereby anyone born on U.S. soil is entitled to American citizenship. Trump's EO sought to redefine this right, but experts say he will likely be challenged in court as birthright citizenship is protected by the Constitution.
And we also have the first member of the Trump cabinet, and that is Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
On this vote, the yeas are 99, the nays are 0. The nomination of the great Senator Marco Rubio from the state of Florida is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table, and the President will be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
99 yeas means Rubio was confirmed unanimously. No surprises there, as he is among the least controversial of Trump's nominees. He is now the first Hispanic and first fluent Spanish speaker to become the top U.S. diplomat. Rubio is, of course, known for his hawkish stance on authoritarian states like China, meaning he is expected to take a hardline stance on Beijing. At his confirmation hearing a few days ago, he went so far as to accuse China of cheating its way to superpower status and called it a dangerous adversary. Today, reporters asked Chinese officials if they would drop their sanctions on Rubio now that he is Secretary of State. Rubio was sanctioned by China twice back in 2020 for criticizing Beijing's handling of Hong Kong and Xinjiang. Here is the Chinese Foreign Ministry's reply.
China will firmly safeguard its national interests. At the same time, it is necessary for high-level officials from China and the United States to maintain contact in an appropriate manner.
All right, let's talk about Donald Trump's busy first day. Our first guest tonight is Professor Aris Arugay. He's the chairperson of the UP Diliman Department of Political Science. Good evening, Professor. Thanks for being with us on this big day. Welcome to the big story.
Good evening, ladies. Thanks for having me.
Professor Arugay, lots to tackle there and to try to make sense of on Trump's very first day. First off, what did anything surprise you? Did anything shock you or really stand out to you?
Before the inaugural speech, there were already impressions by many that, and Trump himself mentioned this in a rally on Sunday in Washington, D.C., that he will not waste any time in making true some of the campaign promises and what we call the Make America Great Again campaign that he was so successful. Let us mention that unlike in the 2016 elections, Trump both won the Electoral College vote and the popular vote, but also is not his Republican Party has control on both houses of Congress. So this overwhelming mandate has made Trump a more confident U.S. president, and therefore his ability to make good on his promises is something that he, I think, hinted us with the number of executive orders, and some of those, of course, seek to undo the orders that executive orders that Biden passed that sought to undo what Trump did. So in a way, Trump is just rectifying some of what the Biden administration was tried to do in some of his executive orders during his first term.
You're right. None of that came as a big surprise, but let's tackle some of the bigger issues like immigration, for instance. His plan to declare a border emergency on the U.S.-Mexico border, that's something that he promised even with his first term. But what about the plan to end birthright citizenship, whereby anyone who was born on U.S. soil is granted an American citizenship, for instance? What do you think the far-reaching implications of that might be?
Right. I think that's what Trump did in his executive orders yesterday were all controversial, but I think that's the most controversial because it strikes at the heart of what makes America a different country in terms of its citizenship requirements compared to other countries. And birthright citizenship is part of American identity as a nation. And insofar as a presidential executive order can violate this constitutional provision, then many of American institutions, including the Supreme Court and even Congress, might be activated in order to settle what could be a dispute in constitutional provision vis-a-vis what Trump wanted to do in order for him to, this is a continuation of the crackdown on illegal immigrants and undocumented immigrants by not allowing their children to be afforded American citizenship.
Well, that whole argument came about, right? I mean, leading up to the elections, immigration was one of the hot topics, one of the campaign promises of Trump that really resonated with the electorate. Now that it's here and it's day one, of course, he's going to make a big show of it. It's like us here talking about 20 peso rice, so we have to keep mentioning it and going back to that promise. But do you think anything will really come out of it? Like you said, this is changing the Constitution.
He's
Right.
bound to go up against stiff legal challenges.
Yes, and what we've seen under the first Trump presidency is that he tried to do a lot of things in a fast and loose manner, and in a way, certain American institutions and democratic constraints and guardrails are the ones that are preventing him from doing so. Even his own party mates, in fact, have expressed reservations on some of the more radical and right-wing policies that he wants to do. So we'll have to see to what extent the Republican Party will be very supportive, because at the end, Trump will only serve for 4 years. That's it. He cannot be reelected. He cannot run for president again. And in the meantime, the Republican Party it has to survive and has to ensure that it is able to maintain its dominance in U.S. politics, and that may mean to cater to some of the constituencies, many of whom would be immigrants.
How do you think President Trump was able to turn the narrative around? I mean, taking a look back 4 years ago, he was defeated by President Joe Biden, and also with the Capitol attack. And now, 4 years later, he won the majority of the electorate, the electoral colleges, and also he called himself as a peacemaker and as a unifier, signifying that America will now experience or go into a new golden age. Does that remind you of something? And also,
Are there promises lost by chance?
those are stark contrasts to me. Like the Trump from 4 years ago and the Trump now. I mean, what has gone right for him this time?
Right. When Trump lost in the 2020 elections, of course, he now has the opportunity to revise that. And in fact, one of his first pronouncements after being sworn in is that he still believed that he was cheated in the 2020 election. So let's expect that discourse will be salient under a Trump 2.0. But assuming and not assuming, it's a fact that he lost the elections in 2020. Trump is entering an America that has become more polarized than he was first president. All opinion polling on the American public has shown that there's a great divide on those who believe of a more liberal oriented America and a more right-wing conservative America. And therefore, these two versions of the United States is what really splits the country into two hostile camps. And why Trump might say that I'm going to make America great again, and I'm going to try to unify, it might be harder than he thinks, because despite having this mandate, despite having a majority control of both houses of Congress, let us also remember that there's still a lot of Americans who did not vote for Trump. And therefore, there's still a lot of Americans who doesn't believe in some of of his vision, of some of the things that he wants to accomplish. And therefore, all these promises that he's trying to say that he will fulfill must be reconciled with realities on the ground. And more often than not, presidents who promise too much end up not fulfilling them at all, and that might cause eventual voters' remorse.
Well, it does seem that we swung to the other side of the pendulum here, from a very liberal standpoint to a very conservative standpoint. President Trump, I mean, again revoking 78 of Joe Biden's policies. But the whole world has its eyes on this because we do know that America is a superpower. And do you think that this will, I mean, their withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement, their withdrawal from the World Health Organization, their, I guess, new energy policies, do you think those will affect the world order or our progress? And in what way do you think will the rest of the world be affected by those critical decisions?
Right. U.S. disengagement in international relations and global affairs has historical precedent. There are many instances wherein the U.S. has tried to, backtrack on a lot of its global commitments. But as we always say, American and Trump has been complaining that it's giving too much money in the World Health Organization, it's giving a lot of money in the United Nations and all of this, and it doesn't seem to be getting its money's worth. But the thing is, whatever prosperity the U.S. is able to achieve, it is able to do so because it was able to keep its leadership in a lot of these global institutions. So Trump counting pennies like, China is just contributing this amount. In WHO, we're contributing 5 times that amount. But what we're saying here is that U.S. leadership in global institutions is what makes the U.S. not only a superpower, but a global leader. And for a president like Trump, who wants to be seen as a great leader, U.S. disengagement in a lot of these institutions, I think, is quite contradictory because not only does it expose these institutions to vulnerability, but what will prevent countries like China and others from filling whatever gaps the U.S. will leave behind because it is disengaging in a lot of these institutions.
Same argument actually about immigration, which is that I mean, America is built on the backs of immigrants, right? And now they're putting an end to that policy of birthright citizenship. But as far as mass deportations go, for instance, we've heard both sides of the argument. What are your thoughts? Do you think that could be a reality, or is it all just a big talk, right? You talked about legal challenges to these policies. There's also the fact that it's going to be time-consuming and very expensive to try to roll out something like that. What do you think?
Right, definitely. And in fact, when this first floated, people were thinking that, it seems like Trump and his supporters are losing their minds because just the logistical requirements of embarking on this crackdown will empty the coffers of the U.S. state. So while this idea might be far-fetched before, we see that Trump, and we've seen this during his first term, that he will try to make do on the promises that he has made. To the extent that it will be swift and it will be as systematic as he in his mind would like to think remains a question, because we're going to talk about a lot of resources being deployed, human, financial, and even technical. We're talking about surveillance. We're talking about databases of people who are alleged to be undocumented immigrants. But I do think that Trump will try to portray that he is fulfilling his promise by showing us perhaps some preliminary optics. But to what extent this can be sustainable rests upon, I think, the strength and robustness of American institutions who could legally and constitutionally challenge some of these policies that Trump will implement.
Okay. Well, while a lot of people are really questioning what's going to happen onshore, a lot of people around the world, and I was following this all day, there were so much reactions in South America, in Asia, everywhere around the world. People are reacting to Trump and his policies. But I wanted to get your thoughts on how Trump 2.0 would impact geopolitics around the world. As early as now, he's already claimed that the Gaza ceasefire was kind of kind of started by him, or he had some part in it. When it comes to China, he also had very, very strong words. We're expecting China hawks to form policy with that. But then we also have that phone call between him and Xi Jinping just before the inauguration. So where do you think Trump will take us in his second term?
Right. Astutely, we didn't hear Trump mention China in his inaugural speech. However, I do think that we need to wait for the other words that will come out of Trump, as well as because clearly the indication is that the people he has appointed in critical foreign affairs portfolios have a significant anti-China stance. And given that Trump indeed wants to always come out on top, wants always to win, and therefore he will have to engage possible competitors of China on a one-on-one basis. This is a marked contrast with the approach of the Biden administration, who saw that in order to deal with China as a peer competitor, it must rally like-minded states, form a front against China. But on the other hand, Trump wants to deal with China on a one-on-one basis, and doesn't really pay much attention to what contributions allies like the Philippines or Japan could make. We also know Trump to be very transactionalist. So the friendly stance on China might be perhaps the first moves of a deal that could be made. And unfortunately, if deals could be made between US and China, more often than not, collateral damage could be small countries that could even mean countries including us.
There are also some other contentious EOs, like for example, the TikTok ban extended. I mean, putting the Supreme Court beside the president, it is a question of what authority the president has over that bipartisan ruling. Another one is the freedom of speech and prevention of government censorship. And also taking a look at the inauguration, seeing the tech leaders, the big-time tech leaders on front row. What do you think will be the direction of this administration? We are very active on social media. So how do you see the tech space and the social media space with the new administration?
Right. Let us remember that there was a part during the Trump campaign that he was very negative about TikTok. And then he discovered that he apparently is very famous on TikTok. His videos have become viral on TikTok, and to the extent that when he saw that he's one of the most followed, if not the most viral personalities, then he changed his mind. And this is what to expect from Trump 2.0. We can't really take his word as given and therefore as cast in stone, because he could easily change his mind. And in this degree of uncertainty, policymaking really becomes not only transactional but deeply personalist. And we've seen how tech companies have basically bent the knee to Trump a few days before the inauguration, hoping that Trump will not be on their bad side. But it also goes to show that perhaps under Trump, instead of being more accountable or answerable for the response and being responsible to some of the negative impacts of tech companies, perhaps at least in the United States. We're not talking about how the tech companies behave in other countries, but perhaps in the United States, these tech companies being cozy might give them more impunity in terms of being responsible owners of social media platforms.
Wait, I want to come back to your previous answer. You said on geopolitics that smaller countries like the Philippines could become collateral damage if Trump decides to do a deal of some sort with China on a one-to-one basis. That's one side of it. The other side of it, obviously, he stacked his cabinet with China hawks. Case in point, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and Tulsi Gabbard. How do you think he's going to reconcile that? And flesh out that thought for me, collateral damage, smaller countries being collateral damage.
Right. this is the big difference between his approach with Biden. Is that Biden, under the Biden administration and at least Democrat foreign policy, somehow pays respect and at least recognizes the agency of middle and small powers. They just don't consider them as tools of foreign policy all the time. For Trump, that he respects power and strength. So if you're a small country that can't really make a dent on foreign policy, for Trump, you're not really something to be taken seriously. If you're not that important to him, if you're not that valuable to him financially or monetarily, then you're just one of the pawns. So the worst case scenario for countries like the Philippines is that if the US and China could make deals, of which foreign policy and geopolitics is one of the cards that are being dealt with in these deals. And if that will and if part of the deal is that the U.S. will say, okay, we won't support countries like the U.S. who are like the Philippines who are standing up to you, and we'll turn a blind eye, then that will undo the years of which the U.S. have given us their ironclad commitment to the alliance and such. Things of like that could also happen with other U.S. allies like South Korea, Japan, and other states in the Indo-Pacific.
But Professor, we were already through this before Trump 1.0. We were already thinking what's going to happen, to the ironclad commitments and all of that. But suffice it to say, nothing much happened, not much boat rocking happened. And so going into Trump 2.0, can we sit back on our laurels a little bit more relaxed and say, can we expect that same thing? Or should we watch out for in case it goes the complete opposite direction?
And also to add to that context, a lot of the pundits like to point out that it was actually under Trump 1.0 when the term free and open Indo-Pacific was coined, right? So therefore, can we expect the same level of engagement this time around? Maybe, he won't forget us after all.
Maybe there will be continuity.
Right. Definitely, I think countries like us and the Philippines is now more prepared because we're dealing with something that we've already encountered. There was a Trump 1.0, and therefore, I also do think that the Biden administration has laid out certain things that it would be very hard for the Trump administration to undo. Some of the commitments that have been made will likely continue regardless of what Trump does. On the other hand, we also know that Trump's cabinet, Trump 1.0, Trump's cabinet, there's a lot of, it was a revolving door. There were a lot of officials being replaced left and right. Some of those officials have become really antagonistic and negative towards Trump, campaigned against Trump in the last US elections. So what I'm saying is that there's still that degree of uncertainty. Having said this, I do think that the Philippine government, and particularly over the past few years, what the Marcos Jr. administration is able to do is to prepare for those contingencies. That if the scenario is that there will be U.S. disengagement, it might not be immediate, it might be gradual. What's our plan B? What are our contingency options? Who do we approach in order to somehow be able to still accomplish some of our strategic goals and for us to be able to protect our interests? So in that sense, I think we're not going to be totally shocked. We could be prepared. And some of these countries, I think, are also preparing for that possibility that Trump will not really pay attention to Asia and to the Indo-Pacific. That's one of the worst case scenarios. But indeed Trump becomes more interventionist, then there could be a lot of options to us. We also don't want a very interventionist United States in the region, so much so that it commands countries like the Philippines to do whatever the US wants or face the consequences. We also don't want that, because at the end, we want US help, but we don't want, because we've been there historically, we don't want to be a satellite or a neo-colony of the United States again.
Well, the Secretary of State already said, Marco Rubio said that China should stop messing around with the Philippines and Taiwan. Maybe that will kind of help put us always in the conversation. But another thing that surprised me today was President Biden's last actions before he left the office. He issued preemptive pardons for family members, for Trump critics, members who served the committee investigating the attack on the Capitol. First of all, meron palang preemptive pardon. Pangungunahan mo na, no? Before any investigation ensues. Of course, the pardon is for acts committed prior to the granting of that preemptive pardon. But it also begs the question of how this could set a precedent. This is unprecedented in U.S. history, the granting of that preemptive pardon. But you also ask how this could be used by future presidents, by President Trump, to grant possibly a self-pardon or a protection for his allies. So what are your thoughts on that?
Right. For me, it really reveals how deeply polarized and perniciously divided the United States is, to the extent that an outgoing president will come out with this contingent pardons just in case the Trump administration goes on political reprisal mode on certain entities that have helped the Biden administration, or at least were able to protect the interest of the Biden administration and the Democrat Party. We cannot totally preclude the idea that Trump will copy this, and just in case the Democrats are able to regain power. But sad to say, these actions does not bode well to the possible democratic resilience in the United States, but it will nonetheless hold the United States into a deeper and deeper division, because if the two parties are seeing each other really at opposite ends and really are afraid of vengeance and reprisals, that tells you their ability to coexist and to even work together or to achieve common objectives.
Just like us. Deep divisions. We're gonna have to leave that there for
Pero
tonight.
unity din.
No, but at least now they've got a unified, government, Congress, executive. We'll see how that plays
Majority
out.
Republican.
We're gonna have to leave that there. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Professor Aris Arugay of UP Diliman's Department of Political Science. Before we quickly get on, we just have not breaking, but we do have comments from the WHO on Trump's decision to pull out. It's quite a long statement, but I'm going to read you some parts of it. World Health Organization regrets the announcement that the United States of America intends to withdraw. The U.S. was a founding member of WHO in 1948 and has participated in shaping and governing WHO's work ever since, alongside 193 other member states. We have brought, we've ended smallpox, polio. We brought polio to the brink of eradication. American institutions have contributed to and benefited from the WHO. And it closes by saying, we hope the United States will reconsider and we look forward to engaging in constructive dialogue to maintain the partnership between the U.S. and the WHO for the benefit of the health and well-being of millions of people around the globe. I don't know if what Trump said, the figure that he threw out, $500 million, was accurate. I do know for a fact that the U.S. contributes about 1/5 to the WHO's budget. So this is a huge, blow
loss
to them, because who's going to fill that gap, right? We don't know.
I was reading that there's a gap in the room. It probably will be filled by the other superpower in the room, which is China.
Or Russia.
Russia.
Russia is a lot of money. So imagine a WHO that's 1/5 funded by a Russia or a China or some other.
Unless Europe steps up.
Europe
With
is
not
also
an allied country.
under pressure at the
We'll
moment.
see. We'll see.
Maybe India.
Like the WHO said, it's day one.
It's day one. That's
see,
true.
see.
That's true. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how this reshapes the policy and the strategy of the WHO moving forward. Again, countries like the Philippines could be in the line of fire, because obviously we're not just the most at-risk country in the world when it comes to climate risk, but also there's a lot of diseases in this part of the world that needs the
Tropical
attention.
countries really
and
I wonder
help.
if it will set us back. I mean, in terms of
It will set, I think, the entire
our
world back,
goals.
which is, I mean, simple things like the flu. There's so much effort from the WHO that goes into
Research and development and all of these
vaccine
things that we don't see that are behind the scenes.
Well, like you said, it's only day one, and like the WHO said, let's see if the U.S. will reconsider. But here in the Philippines, President Bongbong Marcos may not have made it to the inauguration, but he is certainly keen to connect with the new Trump administration. In a post on X, Marcos congratulated Trump once more and highlighted the importance of maintaining strong relations with America. He said he looks forward to working closely with Trump and his team. Washington and Manila saw a renewed partnership during the Biden regime, which provided $500 million in additional military aid amid tensions in the West Philippine Sea. The Marcos family also has historical ties with Trump. In the 80s, the Marcoses acquired multiple properties in the U.S., allegedly with ill-gotten wealth. And this includes number 40 Wall Street in New York City. And that building was later on purchased by Trump and was renamed to Trump Building.
Let's pause for a quick break, but after that, President Marcos considers extending the term of the PNP chief, well, at least until after the midterm elections. We'll be speaking to the country's top cop, General Romel Marbil, when the big story returns. Keep it here. Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News. Well, it looks like there's another holdup in the printing of ballots for the Commission on Elections. The Supreme Court has issued yet again an order to reinstate on the ballot another batch of candidates previously disqualified by the poll body. Mon Gualvez with a full story.
This is the new midterm elections ballot that now includes the names of 9 candidates COMELEC initially disqualified. All bets were able to get temporary restraining orders from the Supreme Court. But the SC is not done yet. On Tuesday afternoon, the High Tribunal issued another TRO. This time for businessman and online personality Francis Leo Marcos, who's running for senator, and former Albay Governor Noel Rosal, who's eyeing to regain the post. Because of this development, reprinting of ballots cannot go on as scheduled for Wednesday, January 22. COMELEC is looking into adjusting its timelines and deadlines once more.
Mukhang hindi na namin kayang maipangako yung April 14 natin na matatapos ang printing. Sana yung kung magkaroon man ng adjustment, wag naman sanang lalampas na mga April 20 yung printing natin. Kasi ang pinakamahirap talaga po ay yung deployment.
According to the Supreme Court, since October, it has received almost 50 petitions from national and local candidates, including party list groups. The High Court has already informed COMELEC that they can't say for certain when these petitions will be resolved.
The COMELEC should also be aware that in disqualifying candidates, there is a big chance that these candidates are going to be bringing the issue before the Supreme Court, and that the Supreme Court would need time to actually resolve their cases. So these are the TROs the Supreme Court have issued so far, and it's really up to the COMELEC how they will implement the orders.
While making it clear that the SC has to follow the legal process when it comes to election issues, the poll body admits this is a setback in their preparations.
Kami ay naapektuhan lang talaga ng mabigat kapag kami national candidate sapagkat kinakailangan talagang baguhin ang lahat na naimprenta na balota.
COMELEC is studying the move to criminalize nuisance candidates and as early as possible to prevent similar legal incidents. The Commission also assures that despite all the delays, the election is pushing through on May 12. COMELEC is targeting to finish the printing of ballots 2 weeks before the polls, now that the National Printing Office has additional printers that can produce up to 1.5 million ballots per day. And in case another temporary hold order is released by the High Court, COMELEC has incorporated an add feature function to the election management system, so there's no need to reboot every time there are changes to the database. For News 5, Mon Gualvez, we are One News.
Of course, the Philippine National Police has a huge role to play in securing the national and local elections. And it may be why President Marcos is considering extending the term of PNP Chief General Romel Marbil. Next month, Marbil turns 56, the mandatory retirement age in the PNP. It was Interior Secretary John Vic Remulla who first broached the idea of General Marbil staying on at least until June. And President Marcos seems to be open to the idea, saying a change in leadership in the police force could be detrimental at this point.
There is a very strong argument that it would not be good for stability, especially to change Chief PNP in the middle of a campaign period and then approaching an election period.
Let's try to get it now straight from the horse's mouth. Joining us tonight, we have PNP Chief General Romel Marbil. Thanks for talking to us, General. Welcome back to the big story.
Good evening po, ma'am. Good evening for everybody, sa viewers.
Good evening. So, General, what's the deal? Are you extended?
Wala pa kami nakitang orders, but we're happy kung there's an extension. At least, meron po kaming, but honestly, prepared na po kami for, in case hindi po kami extend, ginawa na po namin talaga yung transition, yung what will happen with the election. Ginawa po namin, we're be launching when 100 days before election, by January 30-something, 31, right. 100 days or before the election. Ito yung preparation namin, talaga gusto namin maayos yung election na to for 2025.
Yun nga yung sabi ni Presidente, no, General Marbil, sabi niya gusto daw niya ng continuity as we lead up to the elections. Gusto niya ng stability. I'm guessing alam niya yung mga paghahanda na ginawa mo and he would rather na ikaw na lang yung manatili sa puwesto hanggang matapos yung midterm elections. Can you give us an idea of in the PNP, ano yung ginagawa ninyo, no? 100 days before the midterms, how are preparations? Exactly how busy are you in terms of securing election sites, yung mga hotspots natin, election hotspots?
I don't know. Yung kahapon when I was interviewed, no, ang tinitingnan natin, kasi yung old po nangyari, 3 Gs lang, your guns, gun, and golds. And now, meron ng fake news. So ito yung ano natin. So ang preparation namin yung 100 is more focused kung anong PAGs ba't hindi natatapos yan. So meron kaming timeline, dapat by this time wala ng PAGs. Dapat lahat ng mga barel, dapat hindi magamit ng barel, hindi magamit yung mga pera. Of course, yung mga military police that will be very biased, talagang maging stricto na kami. So they'll be part ng mga goons kasi 'di ba guns and gold. Ang goons lang talaga yung mga hard killers, yung mga PAGs hindi. Sasama namin yung mga police or mga military that will be biased in sa election. And yung gold, of course, ito na po yung iba ngayon. Meron na kaming ginagamit yung digital world. Paano ngayon? What are the laws na pwede natin pagbawalan yung dati kasi yung pera, makikita mo ngayon hindi na digital. So anong mga batas natin? And of course, paano yung mga fake news? How do we handle it? So we need to be more dun sa natin with COMELEC. How can we deal with this? Kasi it will really destroy ang election pagka siniraan mo yung tao.
Wait, General, before we get into the specifics of election security, I want to ask a little bit more about a possible term extension. Sabi po ni Secretary Remulla, 6 months max, tama po ba? Is that in the handbook of the PNP that if ever a chief is extended, 6 months lang talaga? Ano yung possibilities po dito kung may extend po kayo? Na ilatag na po ba sa inyo yan, yung possibilities? Although the President said he is inclined. No final announcement yet or decision, but he is inclined to extend your term.
Actually, meron tayong history na nag-extension ng mga ibang chief PNP natin, no? Example is General Leandro Mendoza. He was extended for 9 months. General Aglipay was extended for, I think before, he will retire soon. But he was extended by President Gloria for another 6 months. So it's really up to meron naman po tayong batas na the President can extend ang Chief PNP. Depende po dun sa pangyayari po nung event ayon. And of course, General Bato was extended. General Acorde was extended also. So it really depends dun sa argument or sa batas natin na gagamitan for the reason that I'll be extended po.
But if ever po, until after BARM elections lang po, or is it possible to go longer than that?
Ma'am, hindi ko po inaano yan, but ang sa akin it's really to, ayusin po namin yung election. And that's a promise that we want to, ensure yung public natin na maayos po yung election natin. Makakaasa po kayo. Yun po yung guidance ng presidente natin. Let's show them that this will be an honest, ordered and properly election po.
And are you inclined to agree if ever the letter comes from Malacanang saying that you should extend your term, because the COMELEC has already said it's no problem, the DILG said it will be no problem to extend, no need for exemption.
But of course, it's always the call of our president kung paano po yan. Ito po yan, ang sa amin lang is always a public servant. Ito po kahit naman mag-retire po kami, it's always a public servant.
Yeah.
Nandito po kami, ayan po yung sinasabi namin, inalay po namin yung buhay po namin sa public service anytime. Nandito po kami. Even if we're needed by the government, nandito po kami. Yung po yung sinumpaan namin, I think even if we die, doon po kami. Public service po yung gusto ng every policeman or every nandito po sa gobyerno, it's always public service.
Okay, General, last na before we let this topic go, have you been asked or nobody's officially asked you yet?
No po, wala po pa. Sabi ko lang, wala po kami and hindi naman po. So I don't assume anything. The Saturday mo, I already finished my testimonial parade in PMA and nagpaalam na po ako sa mga kadete. So sabi ko nga soldiers, soldiers never die. They just fade away. Sa PNP naman, PNP never retires. We disappear with this style. Yun lang po.
Kasi na-ambush interview po si Presidente, doon po lumabas.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on.
General, I wanted to ask about this 911 integrated system that Secretary Remulla was talking about early this morning. Back in August 2024, you said your goal was to have a PNP response time of 3 minutes. But in recent data says that this is actually at 5 minutes. 78% of 911 calls is addressed at 5 minutes. Ano po yung mga challenge na hinaharap po natin given yung ating sistema doon sa 911 ay pasimula pa lang. Nag-transition pa lang tayo mula analog papuntang digital. what are the challenges that you're seeing bringing that time down by 2 minutes?
Ma'am, marami kasi consider yan pagka when you look dun sa how many, ang kaya mabagal kasi how many yung pwede mag-responde sa crime. Yun po yung hinahabol natin Maybe at one time, nagsasabay yung crime. So ito po yung hinahabol natin, banda detail. And we're looking dun sa, tas yung ibang mga resources. How many cars are available? Ilan po yung inanat? In fact, kaninang hapon po, I spoke to our SILG. And sabi nga, we need to buy more cars, we need to buy more patrols, and yung ambulances and fire trucks para mas maganda po yung responde. But yung time kasi talagang sinasabi ko, ang hinahabol po natin kasi talagang kulang po yung gamit natin Kulang na rin po ng gamit natin, kulang rin po tayo ng mga tao na nasa fields. So, nadi-delay po. But yung paghabol po ng police talaga, as much as possible, we go for 3 minutes po.
Oo, pero meron din po ba tayong balak na gawing digital itong pag-file or pagtawag sa police? Kasi kanina tinitignan ko yung website po ng 911, wala doon kahit mismo doon sa website na pwede kang mag-file doon ng reklamo. Kasi syempre ito po sa eleksyon, ididikit lang po natin, kasama na dyan yung fake news, kasama na dyan yung mga scam online, kasama na po dyan yung election concerns. Do we not have any plans to make that digital as well?
Actually, ma'am, meron na po, not even in the police po, yung ICT natin last time, and I spoke to ICT, yung gusto nila yun, to reporting yung report ng mga tao natin sa cellphone. Pabasahin ka lang. Ang sasabi ko, ayoko yung mga pulis natin gumagamit ng cellphone. Yun na po talaga yung problema. Sabi ko, hindi pwede. We have our own radios right now. Ayoko po yung makikita kasi ang pulis natin, pagka nakita mong cellphone, iba yung iniisip ng mga tao natin So meron naman po kami alternate na radios na ginagamit natin. Maybe, in some way po, baka mas maayusin po natin. But ang sabi po ni SILG, we'll be having a new technology na 911, the same way na ginawa po natin coming from the US, but it will be bidded. Ang last time, it's a donation na po, coming from the friends of the former Secretary Abalos po. Donation po na para makatulong po sa 911 po natin.
So are we looking to employ a whole labor force for this? Kung alam ko po, narinig ko po kanina ay call center po ang sasagot. How will that go? That fully integrated 911 system with language-specific service?
Actually, ma'am, ganito po talaga mangyari, This is how we are looking at it, Ang gusto naman pa talaga natin, pagka meron pong cellphone, may tumawag po sa atin, yung pinakamalapit po na police station, doon na po babaksak, yung pinakamalapit na service center ng 911. So they can answer in that, yung sa anong location, di ba? Kung sa Cebu, di Cebu yung 911 na dadating sa'yo, hindi na yung national babagal po yung report natin. So, ito po yung technology. At the same, ito pa nagiging problema sa 911, Hindi lahat ng SIM card natin registered.
Correct.
Hindi compared po sa US, they can easily identify yung mga tao natin gumagamit sa US na mga peke na phone. In fact, pagka nag-ano ka ng hawks, makukulong ka. Dito, baka may mga mali-maling calls. Kaya meron po kaming AI to detect kung yung mga calls na to, mga fake calls lang na talagang po kalokohan lang. Meron po kami pan-detect right now. In fact, half of our calls right now, puro kalokohan na, puro hawks lang, na wala naman talagang nangyayari.
Naalala ko yun na General, nung sinabi ninyo, pinakamadaming mga maling call nakukuha nyo para mag-order ng pizza. Ganun pa. Pero parang ganun din siya, di ba? Pag tumawag ka, they'll call the branch nearest you para yun yung magsaservice sa'yo.
Yeah.
I just want to add, ito nga yung nagiging namin, in the US, when you call the 911, automatic, pagka wala kayong insurance, you'll pay about $3,000 to $4,000. Yan ang problem. 911, hindi, that's not free in the US. 911 is not free. You'll be paying for, based on sa insurance mo.
Okay.
Pero kung it's only $150 kung insured ka.
Okay. General,
dito, yun ang competition namin. How we can we survive yung without yung payment po.
All right. General, I'm so sorry we've run out of time tonight, but rest assured, if you do get extended, we will be calling you again for another guesting. I hope you indulge us. Advance happy birthday. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
PNP Chief General Romel Marbil.
Right, we have to pause for another quick one. Right after that, though, the LTFRB is now reviewing a proposal to raise the minimum fare in traditional jeepneys to 15 pesos. The details when the big story returns. Keep it here. Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News.
Transport groups want fare in traditional jeepneys increased to 15 pesos from the current 13 pesos. This way, they hope to somewhat recoup losses from inflation and unabated fuel price hikes. Well, just today, big-time adjustments in the cost of oil products is an additional 2 pesos and 70 cents per liter for diesel and 1 peso and 65 cents for gasoline and 2 pesos and 50 cents for kerosene. This marks the third oil price hike this year. While the LTFRB acknowledges challenges faced by jeepney operators and drivers, it says the welfare of commuters should also be considered. The LTFRB will review the fare hike petition and at the same time see if it can help transport groups cope in the form of fuel subsidies.
Alright, totoo nga no, mahal talaga nung gas today. Very big jump, so I hope you were able to gas up. But as the big story comes to a close on this Tuesday night, we began our newscast earlier with Donald Trump, and it's fitting that we're ending it still with him, America's 47th president. This is Trump's new official portrait taken by his chief photographer, Daniel Torok. Notice the light from below, which fully captures his stern expression, especially those cocked eyebrows. BBC News spoke to photography experts to get their take on Trump's latest snap. And here are some of their descriptions. One said serious and intent, striking, and even ominous. But for ordinary social media users, this portrait simply looks like Trump in his 2023 mugshot after he was charged for trying to overturn his election loss back in 2020.
No, I actually think it looks like a promo for The Apprentice, right? That's his signature look on The Apprentice. That's him.
It is.
It captures the essence of Trump.
Trump 2.0.
And I
He
actually
knows what
like
to
it.
expect from this office.
The shadows, the light from
A bit
here.
different from the previous
Yeah.
presidential portraits, right?
I remember during, I think it was President Rodrigo Duterte when Brillante Mendoza was brought in to direct his saunas. And the angles were so different.
That's
Do you
right.
remember
The
that?
lighting was different
The
as well.
lighting,
It was all
the
dramatic.
angle.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, this picture brought me back to 2016. First, the start of the Trump's term. And I was wondering a while ago if we might see that here in the Philippines.
We'll see. And so it begins. Trump 2.0 starts now.
And,
Starts today.
On that reminder, that and
starts
more
today.
expensive fuel products, that's it for the big story tonight.
Well, let's brace ourselves for that. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.
Stay tuned because coming up next, we still have sports, by the way.
Someone was
Play-by-play
coughing over there.
Well, the gorgeous Pauline Bersosa and Andre Felix.
And the dashing
Said
and
Pauline.
fragrant Andre Felix.
You smell good.
Parang
That's
si
your
Chess kasi
redeeming.
napunta kay Gordon Ramsay, no?
Oh, that's right.
She got the short end of the stick.
I'm dominated by... Grabe can we drop that?
Si Regina yun.
Inulit pa, no?
I'm dominated by big story girls.
Pero huwag ka mag-alala kasi hindi naman sasabihin ng kakatabi mo niyan. Na she got the short
Stop
end
that
of the
na.
stick.
Of course.
Is that allowed? Is
What?
that allowed?
Of
It
course.
is husband and wife.
Di lang pang sports, pang news pa.
Baliktad.
Baliktad pala. Di lang pang big story, pang play-by-play pa.
Mamaya, palit tayo dito ka naman.
Pwede. But thank you again to the girls of the Big Story. What a show. Great show today. Thank you to Ate Gretch, Tita Sean, and Madam Regina. On the show tonight, we've got updates from the NBA and the PBA Commissioner's Cup, plus basketball star Troy Rosario. I've been wanting to have him on the show. He'll be guesting live via Zoom to talk about joining Ginebra and returning to the Gilas Pilipinas pool.
And we've also got some volleyball news, scores from the PVL All-Filipino Conference, and some heartbreaking news for the USC Golden Tigresses